Are you looking for consistent income as a copywriter or as a marketer, and you're frustrated with what I call roller coaster income, where your income will be really good for a little while, and then it'll go down, and then you'll struggle to get income again, and it's like back and forth like a yo-yo. It's ridiculous. I'm going to help you solve that problem. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. So first off, when you are taking on a copywriting assignments, there is the desire to get any assignment you can get. And I'm going to tell you that that is not the best approach. In fact, very often the hypey products, the products that kind of trick people, are the products that are most likely to pay for copywriting services, because the person selling the product often feels like it has to be sold rather than it having an inert value in the marketplace, or an inherent value in the marketplace where it kind of sells itself. Then there's very good products that people are that really just sell itself because they're tied to intrinsic needs and desires of individuals. And then there's also people who think they don't need to sell their product because they're deluded. They just think it's the best thing since sliced bread. Anyone along those spectrums makes an okay customer if you can assess the value of that product in relationship to the customer themselves. Now, this is a skill that as a copywriter you use to write your bullet points, to write your benefit statements, to write the fascinations, to really connect what it is that you have to offer with a client. But if you ever feel like that this product isn't quite living up to the hype, then it's not going to make a very good paycheck. Now, you might be saying, well, Justin, I'll take any assignment that comes in. I just need to have some assignments. What's the option? Well, when you're bidding on assignments, it's always best to focus on serving a customer and seeing yourself as an advocate for that customer. So you're not so much finding copywriting assignments as you've studied this audience and you're going out and curating or finding high value solutions for that particular audience. Now, why is this important? First off, when you have an emotional connection with that buyer and serving the best interests of that buyer, you can look at the client very critically and start finding the benefit for the typical user. Now, the Federal Trade Commission is going to require you to present claims that are specific to the typical user. Now, you and I know the typical user doesn't actually use the product the way it's intended. So let's say you're promoting an information product, which is a course or training program that helps somebody solve a specific problem, and it requires them not only to buy the product, but to go through the course and implement the content in the course. We know that 90% of the people will buy a book, they'll buy a course, and they'll put it on a shelf somewhere and never look at it. That's why the online courses are so profitable, is because most people don't use them, yet they feel satisfied in just taking the action to purchase them. That's very important to remember, because when you sell the product, it'll always sound better in the sales pitch than the work that's required to get the result from the product feels for the buyer. So what are we talking about here? If you're taking jobs just to get a paycheck, you'll be dissatisfied with the products inherently because you'll know that they aren't serving the customer. Then even if you have a really good product, you'll know that if they don't meet the benefits of the typical customer, then there's a motivation required in order to get the customer to engage and take action. These are very important concepts because I'm 4 minutes in, and if you're not writing this down, you're not going to connect with it. So let me share it with you in a little bit different way. When you serve a customer, not the client, so the client is who pays you to write the copy. The customer is the mutual customer of the client and the audience in which you serve. When you look at it this way, now you're specializing in an audience. So for example, my specialization is affluent customers. So it's affluent families. Usually they're in a professional position or they're entrepreneurs that run their own business. So my clients tend to be experts. They tend to have longer years of experience in the business, and they're ultimately looking to monetize or to otherwise benefit from what knowledge they already have. They're not looking for new solutions in their subject matter expertise. They're looking for more solutions in implementing their subject matter expertise and getting results. Now, not all of them know that, so I have to bridge that they are highly knowledgeable in an area of expertise, and that while there are these shiny objects out there in these trending markets, that it's better to apply what they already know to refine the basics than it is to go learn the new thing, because they're not that far away from the success that they want if they just learn how to apply the thing they already have. So it's the marketing of a thing rather than the doing of a thing. It's syndicating your time. The whole premise of ad briefings is that you're a copywriter and you have copywriting skills, and you could learn to be a better copywriter. That's great, but it's better to figure out how to find clients for the copywriting skills you already have. And so one way that I'm advocating right here is that you specialize in a customer base or consumer base. You can literally go find some mailing lists and specialize in writing copy that converts with those specific mailing lists. Now, I know we're all deluded online thinking that we're going to get this organic traffic and we're going to research keywords. That is the concept developed by the search platforms and the people selling advertising. What you really must understand is that there are real live humans with problems on the other side of the search engine, on the other side of social media, on the other side of that magazine or mailing list. And if you can write for those individuals, you can have mediocre copywriting skills, but the relevance will be so high. And again, think about Dan Kennedy's message to market match. If you have the right message with the right market, and then it doesn't really matter what medium you use as long as the medium reaches the buyer. So if you make a study of the buyer, focus intently on the buyer first, understand the mailing lists that reach that buyer, understand the concepts that motivate that buyer, understand the behavioral conditions in which that buyer takes action, especially monetary action, then you've put yourself in a position where you're a gatekeeper. So you're the Harvey Brody toll booth position where you'll own that audience. You'll know how to reach them. You might even build your own mailing list for that audience. You'll know what products and services they're looking for so that you can go out like Joe Sugarman did, and he knew an audience and he went out and found blue blockers because that's what the audience want. He went out and found the light bulb that kept their boats warm. He worked the audience more than he looked for copywriting clients. Now, doing this, you're going to start having controls with a specific audience. And those people who also want to reach that audience, it doesn't really matter what the audience is as long as they're buyers, as long as they have money to spend, and as long as you can reach them in a cost-effective manner. And that's why I often advocate you go find a mailing list first. You go find the mailing list of direct response buyers, and then you just write copy around that mailing list for different clients. But the clients will start talking to each other. They'll start seeing pieces that convert. They're doing their homework, and then they're going to figure out that you are the one making that change. So you're not essentially hyping products for paychecks. You're helping buyers get products and services they need to solve problems, and you're writing from that context. Now, what happens here is magical, because when you know the audience and you are gatekeeping the quality of the product to that audience, you can start using what you learned for product A when you're selling product B, and what you learned from product B when selling product C. And then this is why I push the testing and the performance measures, because what will happen now is as you're testing in a list, and it could be a couple lists, but these audiences have to be similar. As you're testing in a list, you'll start noticing what works here and what works there, and you'll be able to start cross-pollinating and refining your ability to get conversion, your ability to generate leads faster than your ability to write the best copy. And in fact, that reinforces the copywriting skills that you learn here, the copywriting skills you may get from books, because you'll able to see results more consistently. Now, what's important here is that you're not just selling these people. You're taking them down a path that enhances their life, improves the value of their situation. You're understanding their intimate concerns and the details of their frustrations, and you're really becoming an expert in these people. So your study of psychology for this buying audience is improved. Your ability to motivate and persuade is improved. And then adding upon that, the testing of marketing, your ability to write a headline, your ability to write hooks, your ability to write fascinations, you're going to build a library of materials. Now, something I've done for more than 23 years is put together all of my content in one place. Now, what this allows me to do is to refine the content per audience. I may have said this before, you may not be aware of it, but Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips is a niche segment of a larger audience, and it focuses on communications, copywriting, and turning words into money. I have Inside Strategic Relations that talks about the persuasion, skills, and other tools that are necessary to gain influence in a marketplace. Sustainable Wealth Secrets is turning your high income into high net worth. All three of those, and I have other publications too, all three of those publications serve the same audience, but different perspectives of that audience. So, for example, if your customer is a work-a-day, white-collar worker who's tired of going into an office, and you're offering them an opportunity where they can either work from home or they can have a more enjoyable commute, there's so many things hanging off of that audience. It could be the headphones that they're using at work to cancel out the noise so that they can have a quiet experience while working, still hear what's going on in conference calls, but then listen to music easily, because this particular device allows you to switch between these things seamlessly. That audience, again, is working, so they have income. They're specific. They work in an office that's a location or a situation. They don't have access to the internet like people that are at home. And if you're going to sell them in the workplace, you need to reach them through other means, which could be the human resources department or whoever's buying these accessory type things. And then it's specific in the sense of, is it male or female? Is it working age? Are they in a specific type of industry? Do you see what I'm going at here? If you're just looking for clients rather than finding an audience of buyers, then you're going to struggle, because there's a lot of different people trying to sell products and services, of which many of those products and services have no market viability. When you understand the audience, you're more likely to find clients that have market viability, which means you're going to have better conversion rates. And as you have better conversion rates, you're going to look more impressive as a copywriter with the skill set that you have. Now, I'm not saying that learning how to write copy that sells is not a worthy goal. It is. Your ability to do written, verbal, and other types of communications in a way that's persuasive is extremely powerful. However, there's a certain level of skill that you have that has to do with copywriting. And unfortunately, a lot of copywriters and marketers focus only on the copywriting. You're going to miss the relevance to the audience and your ability to measure the performance of the copy you can write. And what happens here when you focus on an audience is you could start, this is supposed to be a podcast, but I'm giving you away some very powerful secrets. I hope you're taking notes and you're implementing this. But many high-end copywriters, the reason they're getting 5-figure assignments, the reason they're getting 6-figure assignments, the reason why they're producing 7 figures and more for their clients is because they often understand that audience so well that they've even set up a newsletter or some kind of information product for that audience so they can constantly cultivate, test, and build lists for that audience base. And now it's just a matter of finding new products and services to bring to that customer. Now, what's interesting about this, because a lot of copywriters will say, well, if I can do this and I'm building my own lists, why don't I just run my own business? Now, that's a disaster, because most copywriters are really good at doing copywriting and short-term deliverables, but running a business, which includes bookkeeping and managing staff and all this other stuff, is difficult. But if you're looking at this and you're understanding the systems of how cash flow works, you'll notice that if you have an audience that you serve, whether or not you have an in-house list, and you're cultivating or curating these clients to offer this particular list. Your client is paying for all of your product development. Your client is paying for all the initial costs. They're actually paying you to write the copy. And then ultimately, their team will manage the testing and keeping the website online and processing the orders and all the other things. So as a copywriter, you're playing just a narrow-scoped role while bringing to that audience more and greater value. You'll understand the voice of the customer better. You'll be able to focus your time, energy, and effort on understanding what converts and what doesn't. And then when that client doesn't need you anymore, which happens quite often, or that client gets tired out, or that client changes their mind, you now have the choice of hundreds of other clients because you will already know what this customer base is buying. You already know the problems, concerns, and fears of this customer base. And then ultimately, you just go write a letter to the next potential client. See, you can use the Dream 100 system where you get a list of 100 prospects that you'd love to do business with. And if all 100 of those prospects are serving the same customer base, you can get in front of them every month by just simply writing about the customer base, because they're interested in reaching the office worker who's frustrated with their job, who's looking for, productivity tools, or they're looking for software. And you could just write about tips and tricks and trends and desires of this audience and put it in front of people who want to sell to that audience and show them copies of your controls and show them what's working and what's not. And then they don't have any choice but to work with you because you're an expert in the audience they want to reach. Now, when it comes to selecting that audience, we can talk about that in a different podcast. When it comes to selecting an audience that's congruent with your current skill set, because I want you to build on your existing strengths, there's no sense spending the rest of your life overcoming weaknesses. You can just live with the weaknesses if you have a few strengths that we can facilitate. We can talk about that in coaching. But ultimately, again, please understand what I'm saying here. If you want to stop the roller coaster income, if you want to stop yo-yoing around between clients that aren't paying or staying or even referring, if you want to stop the frustrations of looking for the next client, the solution is to focus on the buyers. Focus on those audience segments, those mailing lists, those websites. You can put together a list of 100 websites who all have the same audience, and you can just farm that list because the audience is the same and they're all fighting over the same audience. So, prospect A, maybe they're having a good season and they got a lot of money to spend on marketing, and you can draw that audience over to them. And then prospect C, they got money next month, and then you could draw the audience over to them. The audience is better served. And because the audience is better served, conversion rates will be better. You don't have to hype the products as much. You can have more realistic user stories because you understand what's important in the user story. And then ultimately, you can become that advocate. And then as that advocate, others who want to reach that audience will come to you. And they will get benefits, and you will just grow. So again, you don't have to rep the sleazy products. Leave that for people who are desperate. You don't have to sell something that you don't believe in, because that's going to impact your ability to write. And finally, you don't have to struggle as a copywriter or marketer. There are audiences out there that want you. There are audiences that need you, and there are many people trying to reach those audiences that could leverage your skills to do so. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's copywriting tips. If you've made it this far, I want you to understand that you're not alone in the marketplace. If you're frustrated, if you're not earning enough, if you're not sure what audience to reach, you can simply ask a question at my website, www.adbriefings.co.uk. We serve the entire English-speaking world, and we have clients from India and UK and the United States and Canada, all able to more effectively reach buyers in the marketplace using words that sell. They're able to stabilize their income, they're able to more consistently have regular assignments, and they're getting bigger, higher paying assignments. If that's what you want, if that's what you desire from this copywriting business, I can show you how to go from a freelance copywriter into a small marketing agency. Now, you don't have to have a big one if you don't want one, but these methods do work to create a big agency. But if you just want more flexibility, greater freedom, and more consistent client work, then you are in the right place. And as we've talked about today, our focus on the buyer is the critical success factor. If you have questions or you want to engage me in coaching, I'm available at www.adbriefings.co.uk. Simply go to the contact page, but we also have a free newsletter, and I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefings Copywriting Tips.